about 25 attendees. So I think we'll start to kick it off. I'm going to mute myself for now. And I'm going to just put this out there for anyone that's attending and listening. If you have any questions, comments, things you want to say, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A. If you have comments that you want to say, put them in the chat. We'll monitor them. And then after Nicky is done giving his presentation and Kristen's asked any questions she may want to ask, we'll open it up to Q&A and we'll start to go through that list of things. So don't feel like you have to wait until the Q&A to actually put the question in. We'll just keep monitoring it and then we'll ask it as it comes along. Okay. All right. I'm muting my.
All right. Thank you so much, Stephen. We really appreciate you doing all the behind the scenes work and computer work here to allow us to have this conversation. I'm Kristen Woodward, for those of you that are on the call that are not my students. And I thank everyone for being here today. Most of all, thank, of course, Nicky Enright for being here with us, and Matt Garrison, who I think is on the call, for bringing him to our attention. So I'm going to start and just read his biography and then invite him to tell us some background and subtext of his work so that we can have a conversation today. Okay. So Nicky Enright is a multidisciplinary artist, educator, DJ, and writer. Working with audio and visual material, his work explores global issues, including the construction and identity of nationhood, the theory and practice of borders, currency, and language. Enright earned a BFA from the Cooper Union and an MFA from Hunter College in New York City. He has received numerous grants, fellowships, and residencies, and his work is widely exhibited. Born in Ecuador, Enright is now showing a 3-minute silent video in the Freedman Gallery foyer. The 2018 video, I'm Migration, is particularly relevant today, considering the political stalemate around immigration in the U.S. His exhibit, FLAGments FRACKments, is held in the main gallery of the Freedman through December 13th. This exhibit includes work from 2 series of drawings. Each combine global concepts of fragments with the subject of flags and fracking. Multiple realities are presented in FLAGments, which highlight coexisting ideas relating to patriotism, nationalism, and xenophobia. Thank you for being with us, Nicky.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would just like to start with some gratitude. So, first off, thank you to all of the Freedman Gallery and Albright College people who make this program possible, brought me in, even in the midst of big changes at the college. I know that includes Kate Mishriki, James Gaddy, Richard, I'm not sure how you say his name, Houck.
Yep.
Houck, who did an amazing installation. You, Kristen, Stephen, Nicodemus in the background there, Dr. Pankratz photos, amazing photos, Heidi Eckman for the design, Kara Johnson, my old friend Matt Garrison, who brought me to your attention, and of course wrote the text for the catalog, and David Tanner, who first approached me from the gallery and who I miss a lot. And also shout out to Albright student Ariana Austin. I don't know if she's here. I met her Friday. She sent me an essay, like a review she wrote about the show, which was great, really excellent work. And so thank you for that. And then I know my art squad is out there watching. Thank you to Josh Merrow, who's got a projector up. So one of these people is actually projecting for a bunch of amazing young artists who go by the name the After School Special Art Squad, Special Squad. And also shout out to Lindy and to Pika and to the Dog Pack and the Money Makers and to Life and Drawing too. And a huge gratitude to the places where I made these works that are on view, which is Virginia Center for Creative Arts, Foundation House, and Bronx Art Space. These 3 places gave me the space that I needed to make works at this scale, and Freedman Gallery gave me the space needed to present these works in a scale where they can kind of breathe and talk to each other and look at each other, and where you can get some distance on them. It's a very special thing to me. So thank you very much. And lastly, thank you all for being here to chat. So the first thing I'd like to do is just share from my website. I'm going to put it I'm copying the link, and I'm going to put it in the chat. It's an eco-urgency mix, and there are 2 of these. There are 2 versions of this DJ mix. One of them is DJ mix that's one audio file that you can download or stream from that webpage, and the other one is a Spotify playlist with the same name, Eco Urgency Mix. And that one, if you have Spotify Premium, I recommend setting the crossfader to 11 seconds and shuffling it. And then that one has a lot more music, and it's good music. It's good to listen to, but it's also like thematic with the about climate change, which a lot of my work has to do with in this gallery right now. Okay, so now if I could share my screen, let's see if this works.
You're good.
Okay, great. So first, just in case anyone hasn't seen the FLAGments and FRACKments show, I just wanted to run through some images of the installation. So this is the gallery and how it looks in the gallery. Really beautiful gallery, beautiful lighting, beautiful installation, beautiful benches, beautiful floor. It's just like, it's an honor to be exhibiting here. And these works, they just feel so happy to be here with the space needed, like I said, to breathe and for you to walk around and have them relate to each other. Like, this is a privilege, because when you work at this scale, it's not like my studio is this big. You know, I can't do this in my studio. Okay, that's those. And then I want to show some of the works themselves. Well, iMigration has a couple of video stills like this one, Humans. It's a text-based video. State of Mind, the idea being that all the states in the world with the invisible lines that are borders are basically states of mind. iMigration, obviously a play on words on the word immigration. Yeah. And then, I wanted to show from the iMigration, these are pictures that Dr. Pankratz shot. And it's just a little excerpt from the video, which is Ellis Island, which a lot of people think of as, you know, where fondly because they have ancestors who came through Ellis Island. So Ellis Island was closed down, lying in ruins for decades before tellingly becoming a museum, a nostalgic testament to a time when immigrants could be legal. And I remember Ellis Island when it was in ruins. I visited, and it was amazing and spooky. But now it's a museum. Okay, these are the FLAGments. I'll just run through them quickly. Welcome back. This one's called Culture. And actually, if right here it says URE right after that graffiti. This one's called Customs. Forgot. Gazebo. Stars, I think. Stripes. Stars and stripes. This one's about money that's worthless. Those are the FLAGments. And then here are the FRACKments. Escape. This one's 20 feet wide. That's the biggest drawing in the show. A lot of them are 10 feet wide. That's a 10-footer right there. Cementerio Mundial means world cemetery. This one's called Witness. Hands. Fish. Time. Trash. Those are trash bags there. And those are the FRACKments. So I think that's all. I wanted to show a couple studio views just so that you get a behind the scenes look. So this is my studio at Foundation House, where I made all those works that you see right there. And you can see that I don't have room to be, you know, there's no room to breathe, but I could make the work. So I'm very thankful. This is Bronx Art Space, a 2-person show with Linda Cunningham, whose art is on the right wall there. You can see my piece in the back there. That's this was a show with I also painted the windows. What on earth have you done? And you can see when the light would shine through, it would create this piece on the ground, this shadow piece on the ground. What on earth have you done? And then this is this piece in process, where you can see that the structure of it is very much based on flags and the geometric abstraction of flags. This is that's Eduardo, a Mexican composer, right there in my studio at Virginia Center for the Creative Arts. That was a bigger studio where I could have some room to breathe. And this was an open studio event. So, and at that open studio event, let's see, I did speak a little bit about the FLAGments. Let's see if I have it here. I thought it was here. Oh yeah, here it is. So I'll just play that. Let me know if you can't hear the audio. To create dreamlike meditations on flags as symbols of nation states and borders, limits. Limits. I limited myself to basic materials, ink and wax pencil on multiple sheets of paper. Multiple realities coexist to explore the fraught relationship that I and many others have with national flags, along a spectrum of belonging, patriotism, nationalism, and the targeted scapegoating of xenophobia. So there you have it, and that's all I really wanted to share, just to give you an overview of what this talk is about. And so at that, with that, I'm happy to open it up to a Q&A.
I'm looking at the Q&A. While students are and guests are thinking of questions, can you just maybe make a little bit more clear if there is an underlying kind of conceptual relationship between the video and the FLAGments pieces?
Definitely. I mean, I think the underlying theme in the iMigration and the FLAGments is borders, and the imaginary lines of borders that and flags that kind of define us as national beings and spaces on this planet as national states, that are so prevalent in modern life, to the point where they can swing an election like we just saw, and to the point where people are willing to kill or die for these geometric abstractions that are flags. And this is something that I've thought about a lot in my life, and that creeps into a lot of different works of mine. So iMigration and FLAGments are very clear iterations of projects that are thinking directly about this. But actually, there's a lot of projects that I do where that seeps in, including the FRACments, because FRACments, there's not really a clear line between the FLAGments and the FRACments. The FRACments are, about climate change and the environment. That's why they use the notion of fracking, which is the same root, actually, the same root of the word for fragments and fracking. And so there is a relationship between climate change and migration, which which I'm kind of thinking about too. And I think that that's something that we can expect to continue in this world right now. As you can see, more and more places in the world are now suffering the effects of climate change. And unless we act quickly to rein it in, that's going to continue and potentially worsen a lot, to the point where people are going to want to move from places that are seen as very prone to hurricanes or wildfires or flooding or whatever it is. And there's going to be there's always mass movement of people around the world, but there might be much more going forward. Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, true.
So we have some questions in the
couple
chat.
Questions. Yeah. Can you read it, Stephen?
Yeah, no worries. So from your art squad, what inspired you to create these works? I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but go ahead and.
Got it. Yeah. Hi, Art Squad. Um, I guess what inspired me to create these works are what inspires me to create any works, which is basically like a way of thinking things through. It's like for me, art making is kind of a way of thinking. It's like a way of exploring, like of letting my thought meander. It's also just a way to be free. Like, when I have art squad, it's kind of like an art class, but it's a very free environment. There's no everything is optional and you can do whatever you want. And so that's a rare kind of scenario in this life, especially for young people who are used to being told what to do by teachers and parents and even adults who have to go to work and have to do this and have to do that and have to take care, and then they have children, they have to handle all these adult things and parent things, and so there's not a lot of space for like total freedom. And I feel like art making is a way to embrace that and to find that, and in a very small way, even in a few minutes, even in a sketchbook, like to just kind of like tap into freedom and let your thoughts roam free, and you have kind of like a remnant of that thinking process. It's kind of like a philosopher, except that you have some kind of art object at the end of the thought process, something like that.
Awesome. The fish painting, what's the inspiration and meaning of it?
Okay, so let me share my screen again so I can put that up. So that would be, let's see, this one. So this one was actually based on all of these images that I've made. The process has been to look through my camera roll and put things together that seem like I could put them together visually, And so this was actually from a sketch that I made for a friend of mine, Christian Baidal, on an envelope. So if you look carefully, you can see this, what looks like a mountain here. It's actually a torn envelope. And then these are 3 post-its on the envelope. So there's an envelope with 3 post-its. And that was because I was at a meeting, and in meetings I always am drawing. And so I was thinking, and they had given out some post-its. They were going to do some kind of a Q&A thing, and we were going to write on the post-its. So I put my post-its on my torn envelope that I had just opened, and I started drawing on it, and I drew this fish. And so later on, when I was working on this series, that was in my camera roll. And so I liked it, and I went with it, and I respected the original of it, which is the envelope and the post-its. And then I added a photo that I had taken of a beach scene, which is some sand, a little bit of water, and then this is now in the sky, and then this boardwalk structure. And so for me, I kind of was thinking about the idea that we all love the beach, and we can go to the beach and feel like it's a fun vacation, and we're just hanging out, and like there's waves, and we jump in the waves and we walk around. Like I love boardwalks and all that, but we don't necessarily think enough about what is going on in that ocean, in that beach, the fish that are living right there, and all of the life that's in the ocean. And so in a sense, if this piece is about like you looking at the ocean as a place to go and have fun, for humans to go and relax and vacation, as opposed to looking at the ocean as a place full of life that is actually in distress right now, thanks to our fun-loving lifestyle, I guess you could say.
Great. I'm curious about your process of creating the enormous drawings.
That's from Mike, who makes murals. He wants your secrets.
Oh yeah. Well, it's actually similar to his secrets, which I was looking at Goggleworks on Friday. So I have this set up. It's like right here actually, but it's packed up. It's a tripod. It's a very small projector. It's called a Pico projector, and it has a tripod jack on the bottom, like a camera. So I have this tripod that I can put a projector on and basically like, move around the room and make images as big or as distorted or as small as I want. And so my process is, I'm looking through camera roll and so it's anything goes basically, but usually drawn from my own life and my own past work, including sketches like that fish, and then projecting that onto these pieces of paper that I've put up, these fragmentary pieces of paper, because I don't know if you noticed, but you could see all of them are made of smaller pieces of paper. So they're all actually fragments. So I build that first, I make myself a frame, and then I start projecting things. And when I feel like when I hit it, I know it and I go with it. So I use that projection as a guide to help me to start the drawing and the composition. And then I probably won't go too far with the detail yet. I'll start to look for what else could fit into this composition, always going through camera roll and like that. So the process is basically like projecting images onto paper and changing sizes and just thinking about how things go. And I don't have any preconceived notions. I don't have a plan for this. I don't make a Photoshop drawing for these. I just am basically winging it. And yeah, it's a spontaneous kind of art form that mixes, I guess, technology with old-fashioned drawing, but also without having anything resolved. Like it's not resolved until it's resolved, you know. I'm basically it's a risky kind of artwork, and there's no erasing because I'm using ink and wax pencil. So once I make a mark, it's there for good, and there's no way to erase anything. Everything you've seen is what I did, and there was no changing it. I could get darker, I can never get lighter. So it's like it's kind of like I dive into these big drawings, and I just try and tread water and swim and like float until I know that it's done, and then I can move on to another one. And sometimes I work on multiple at the same time, like you could see in the studio picture. Mm-hmm.
Well, is scale very important? Because I noticed you do have some smaller, intimate pieces, and they obviously have a very different presence than the mural size works.
Yeah, scale is a very important thing to me. I'm also a muralist, so in a sense, those big drawings are actually small when you compare them to a mural, right? So there's that kind of scale, and then there's all sorts of things that I play with scale. Like I'll share an image again. Let me share the customs one. I think it's this one. No, this one. Yeah. So this one, see, this one plays with scale for the viewer. The first thing the viewer sees, I imagine, would be like a big plane, you know, and it's 10 feet wide by 5.5 feet tall. So in terms of a drawing, that's a big plane. But then you notice it's in this child's hand. It's actually my son's hand. And so then in your mind, there's this moment of adjustment where that's actually a very small plane, right? It's a big hand. It's a small plane. And then, of course, if we're talking about real planes, this is all tiny microscopic stuff because planes are enormous. So there's always this back and forth kind of push and pull with scale. And then there's also this cityscape down there on the bottom right. You know, I'm actually standing on this rock down here, right? So it's like you don't even know which way is up. Like basically when I'm making these, I want to mix up scales and perspectives in a disorienting way. That's also part of the concept of FLAGments, of fragments, right? I'm putting together these fragments. It's in a sense, it's a collage. All of these works are collage works. It's just that they're not cut and paste, they're drawn, but the concept of it is collage, putting these different things together, you know? Yeah.
So couple comments. Wow, I never would have thought it was postage. I thought it was a fish jumping out of the water. That's amazing. Mike Miller then commented, a projector is a great way to compose. Sometimes I do this too when a design can be altered. Beautiful work. Thanks. I'm going to actually skip Milton's question real quick just to get into the Q&A section. I'll come back to your question, Milton, in a second. So going down the line, from what I saw, what made you choose the theme for your work being black and white?
That was a kind of a decision about like a back to basics thing. You know, that's kind of why I also decided to do drawing, because I've done a lot of different kinds of work. Like you can see I have a video up there, and I love mixing up different media. I love audio, I love video, I love photography, I love collage. But for the last couple of years, when I get a studio, I'm thinking like back to basics, pencil, ink, and paper. That's it. So it started out very black and white and basic, and just seeing like what could I do with that? You know, I believe in this. I teach drawing. I believe that drawing has potential and power, and I just have to like trust it. So I kind of am being ambitious in scale and in concept, but in terms of materials and color scale, it's very basic, you know. And then with the FLAGments, I started to add a little bit of color here and there, like the timepiece, which has some blue sky, and the witness piece has like a silver background, which is the ground that I'm standing on. But very sparse. Like it's just yeah, it's a very basic kind of thing. Like I guess I don't know. I like that. I like the idea of seeing what you can do within the limitations. Artists are oftentimes giving themselves limitations to be creative against, to be butting up against. And so for me, the limitations were basically paper and drawing materials. Mhm.
Nicholas asks, are there any specific locations that these pieces are inspired by / drawing attention to?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that they're necessarily drawing attention to any particular places. I want people to let their minds go wherever their minds go. But in terms of what inspired them, definitely, because they're based on my own photos, they're based on places that I have been in the last few years, which includes Switzerland, it includes Berlin, Germany. It includes that beach, anywhere that I have been basically is like fair game. Anything that is in my camera roll basically is fair game. And that's an interesting thing because when I started doing it, I wasn't planning on that. That just happened. And so now that if I wanted to continue these series, the question is, so now am I taking pictures thinking about making more FLAGments and FRACKments? Like, am I planning that out? Am I, kind of like stuffing my camera roll with things for future drawings? And I would prefer not to. I'd prefer that it just really comes from life and not from art planning,
Awesome. So Matt Garrison asks, you work in a wide range of mediums and materials. Is drawing integral to your process across practices, even when working in digital spaces?
Definitely, yeah. I think drawing is key to my practice as an artist, and I think to many artists and architects and a lot of people, designers, graphic designers. Like I think drawing is really a foundational thing. It's a great thing to do. It's a great thing to study. Although sometimes studying it might turn you off from it, but like with anything. But it's a great thing to do. Like I really believe in having sketchbooks. Like I always have a sketchbook that's this size. I usually carry this around, and it's just something that I can write in, write ideas in. I'll just open some random pages. Sketch ideas, write ideas, collage ideas, draw the moment that I'm in. They kind of become a record in time too. They're like a piece that shows what I was thinking of at this time, for however long it takes to finish a sketchbook. And so yeah, the short answer is definitely.
And then Ariana asked, do you have a planned idea of what you want your pieces to look like, or do you just start and allow the image to form from the process?
The second one. Yeah. I definitely don't have an idea of what. That's part of where the freedom comes in, that I was talking about earlier, that there's one of the things that I find most beautiful about being an artist. There are many difficult things about being an artist. Most artists struggle to make a living, for example. It's hard to find the time and the energy to make art while making a living. Like these kinds of things are struggling, but there are real perks to being an artist, and one of them is that when you get into the studio, ideally, no one is telling you what to do, and you do whatever you want, and you see what comes out. And so I embrace that very much, and I practice that freedom, in the studio.
I think we missed one question, Stephen. It looks like Milton asked,
Yep,
can you say more? Yeah, can you say more about the welcome back painting And I
Sure.
was going to follow up
Mhm.
with that and ask you a bigger question. So maybe you can put them together about what kind of power you think the visual arts have to foster social engagement.
Good question. Let me share the screen again and then go back to, I think it's this one. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome back. It's like all of them, it's open to your interpretation, and your what you see in it and how you interpret it is just as valid as whatever I was thinking when I was making it. That's how I feel like art works. But so to give you some background on this piece, obviously I was thinking about immigration and flags. And so I thought of this cage like bar structure, like windows, cut cages, bars, fences, whatever, as the structure of a flag in a sense, because flags usually are these geometric. So a lot of times when I was doing these drawings, the underlying composition of any of them is flags. And so in this one, you can see that the flag has become, the lines of the flag have become bars that are imprisoning you, you know. And then this was actually taken from, well, the woman in the front was from a still from a movie, a Nollywood movie, which is the Nigerian, very vibrant Nigerian movie scene that's going on called Nollywood. And there was a bunch of them being shown at the last Documenta, which is a huge art show in Kassel, Germany, that happens only once every 5 years. And so I was there watching this movie and taking some pictures of amazing stills, and this was one of them. And they are in different languages, but they have subtitles. And so and sometimes they're in English and they still have subtitles because the English is a different kind of English, right? It's a different accent, hard for an American to hear or maybe a European. So they put subtitles. And so this one is a subtitle that was there, "Welcome back." And I thought that that image was a very stunning image of like a person kind of in a cage, but they're being welcomed back. So I took a picture of that, which later on became this. And then for the background, I decided to draw all these different people that I had actually met while I was in Berlin, and I was drawing people in order to learn German. Like I was doing a German exchange. It was called Drawing for German. It was a fellowship that I was on where I would draw people and give it to them in exchange for them teaching me some German, like having a conversation. And so I would have these pictures of the drawings. They have the original drawings. I have the pictures. So when I wanted to fill this with people, I wanted to fill it with real people. So you would feel, the viewer could feel that these are real people that I didn't invent. These aren't AI creations. These aren't even Nicky Enright creations. These are actually drawings of real people. And so I just put them all into this camp, which to me, it's kind of like a camp, you know, like a refugee camp or something like that. And so the welcome back, it's ironic. It's like I guess your mind could go into different places, but I guess my mind goes to someone who's been trying to get into the country, maybe has been deported more than once, you know? And so it's like, welcome back to the refugee camp where we're about to deport you again or something like that. And so there's this feeling of waiting. Like I went with waiting. Like I love this woman here who's standing here like kind of like, how long do I have to be here for, you know? And and so, yeah, I guess that this is a representation, just like I'm Migration, like the video I'm Migration is also something where I put myself in the shoes of an immigrant who's fed up with the lack of respect given to immigrants who are working and doing so much work for this country. Like, you know, in my opinion, immigrants deserve a lot of respect for not only for being like resourceful people who like will make who will relocate themselves and their families to go find a better life for their children, even against all odds and even linguistic challenges and whatever, but because of the amazing work that they do for everyone in this country, sometimes being exploited, being paid less than minimum wage, and not even being asked like what do you think about the immigration debates, right? Just being ignored when it comes to that. And so I feel like that's a voice that's missing in the immigration discussion big time. And so the immigration piece was a way to kind of channel that, and just to think of like, what would an immigrant who really understands their position in relation to this country, what might they say, you know? And so that's what the text is. I'll just read you a little bit of it. Like, this is an excerpt from the immigration text. Just create a just global economy, or just furnish the undocumented with documents. Financial, this is like a parentheses, financial struggles have nothing to do with deregulation and union busting and globalized outsourcing and bank bailouts and tax breaks for the rich, corporations and their offshore accounts. No, it's us, it's me. It's all the hardworking immigrants that surround us, you know? And that made me think of this other poem where I'm like, and their CEOs and their CFOs and their SVPs and their SUVs and the GOP, GOD, like that. And there's like, we are all immigration, I'm migration. So there's that in that piece, Welcome Back, and in the video, I'm Migration, there's like an attempt to engender some empathy for this person who is struggling and ultimately, you know, not a criminal, not poisoning the blood of our society, as some would have it. Just a human being like anyone else with the same drives for peace and safety and like a better life for their children. Like, that's it. So I feel like, yeah, and you know, to answer the second part of the question, Kristen, it's like if I could help a viewer to feel that even a little bit, then that's the power of art. Like, you know, opening people's eyes to issues and making them think of them in different ways, you know? Like, I find it amazing that the politicians can throw immigrants under the bus so easily. I mean, it's not that amazing because illegal immigrants cannot vote. So it's an easy population to throw under the bus without having any electoral consequences. So in that sense, I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. But it's hard to believe that people believe it so easily and so much because when you actually think about the immigrants in your life, right, in everyone's life, then they're not criminals and rapists and drug dealers and poisoning the blood of the country. They are the people who are doing all the work. They are the people who are doing the work in your institutions. They're cooking the food and cleaning the place, and they're cleaning up after the food, and they're even doing the work behind the scenes that you don't even see. When you see it, you see it, and there's a lot of work being done that you don't even see. And but still, it's like, it's kind of like to pretend like immigrants are some other brand of human being that is poisoning the blood of the country, is to ask people to put their own experience on a shelf, believe some fantasy that is being fed to them with no evidence, and like not have empathy, not have human empathy for these people. So yeah, to me, that's a huge issue. And I think a lot of my art kind of either confronts that directly or sometimes indirectly. Mm-hmm.
I absolutely see it about social justice. And so I was going to ask you about how your work aligns as an educator, and you kind of answered that as well. How your studio practice aligns with your work as an educator.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, because I'm writing a book proposal right now about being an art educator and the like reflections about that. And I've come to think of my students as like an art project in and of itself. Like my projects in contemporary art class, PICA, that's like an art project, you know, but it's an art project where there are teenagers who are doing whatever they want and however they want it, and I'm kind of helping facilitate, but it's an outgrowth. So I think the line between the artist and the educator keeps blurring in an interesting way that I like. And I also just feel like my job as an educator, if I could boil it down to like one line, it is to share with the youth the power and beauty of art. That's it. Like, to understand that, to go off understanding that art is a beautiful, powerful thing in this world. And if they get that, then I've done a good job. If they don't get that, I failed. And it doesn't matter. Anything else doesn't matter. Like, everything else is details. It's like, that's the job. And so when I talk about the power of art, it, to me at least, it is related to social justice and like change in the world. And it's not to say that everyone's art needs to be directly political like mine, but I do think that it all is political in some way or not. So like even if you're an artist who's going for beauty, 100% beauty, not politics, not social change, but beauty, then I would say, well, yeah, we need that. We need that. We need that. And that's also a political necessity, right? We can't just be fighting all the time. We can't be resisting all the time. We need beauty. We need beautiful music. We need, I wouldn't survive without music. I can't imagine living without music, so we need it all. We need it all. And in that sense, it's really powerful and helps people to live, to really survive. Like, art is something that we take so for granted that it's just always there. Like everyone has art in their life. There's music around, there's art on the walls, there's art surrounding you, there's advertising, there's all coming from some artist who's now being paid by a corporation to sell you something, but that's art. And like I was telling my students the other day, the I Love New York logo that everyone knows, that's on t-shirts and mugs and everything, that's actually a design from what's his name? I'm spacing on his name right now. Probably someone there knows.
It's a test.
Yeah, what is it? Milton something? But yeah, that's not something, a New Yorker could be forgiven for thinking that New York was born with the I Love New York logo, but actually that's an artist's creation. That's a design that someone thought about and made, a designer. So like, yeah, the impact on life is huge, even though I don't think people necessarily think of it that way all the time.
I think we have like one more question. It's a little bit different. David says, odd question, but how would someone convert their anxiety into drawing?
That's an odd question.
Maybe it's about the catharsis of
Yeah.
making art. Like we're talking about it as the ability to convert for social reform and social justice,
Yeah.
but is there a catharsis in it?
Totally. Yeah, I would say it's not. I mean, I guess drawing in itself, you don't have to think about converting your anxiety into drawing. Like drawing itself will, and I don't know if convert is the right word, but it will definitely help. Like it's a way to express. And I mean, art is ultimately self-expression too, right? In any discipline, there's an expression going on, and we all need to express ourselves, and we do it either directly as artists expressing through some medium, or we do it vicariously, like when we listen to music from someone else, or when we watch a movie and we feel like there's this release because we're like experiencing something, releasing something thanks to this artist's creation. I think most people are doing it vicariously, right? It's the artists who get the firsthand like release of self-expression through art. But I think it's a powerful thing, and it definitely will help anxiety. I mean, I would assume, like, I'm not a psychologist, but I can't imagine a psychologist being like, no, you shouldn't be drawing. That's not going to help your anxiety. It's got to help. Yeah, I recommend it. I feel like sketchbooks are great. They're cheap. Well, these are kind of expensive. This is a moleskin sketchbook, which is my favorite. This little guy, 5.5 inches, I think is like $15, $17, something like that. So it's a little pricey for a sketchbook. You could get much cheaper ones, but like it's a very, very inexpensive form of self-expression, and you can carry it around in a bag. You don't need a big studio. You don't need a projector. You don't need fancy materials. Any pen will do. I mean, I like drawing in pen because I don't have to sharpen it. So when I'm out and about, I just always have this pen. If anyone's interested, it's Uniball Vision Micro. This is the best drawing pen that I have found, and I've tried a lot. And between that and this, there's a very inexpensive form of self-expression / release and anxiety, release. So I recommend it.
Well, absolutely. It does, looking at your work does make me want to draw. Makes me feel I want to be a part of that conversation and make marks, and hopefully our students do as well.
Yeah. Yeah, mark making, that's it. That's what it is. And that's why I like the ones. And the other thing that's nice about a pen is that you can't erase, right? And so there's something very powerful about that. Like, it's also like life. Like I felt like I'm just looking up the I Love New York design. But so I feel like it's also like the climate change, the concept of the fragments, which is that our planet is Milton Glaser, here it is. That our planet is fragile. Our planet is fragile, and like we shouldn't trash it, and like the how do I put it, the stress and damage that we put it through, it's there, and there's no going back. It's kind of like that. That's the idea of. That's why the fragments feel very connected to that idea when I cannot erase, right? So everything that we do, there's a trace of it, there's a line of it, there's like, you can see it, you will feel it. You can't erase, you can't go back. There's no Command Z in with climate or with these drawings, you know. And there's something great about that. It's like, yeah, there's one way. That's why there's that one way sign, you know. Like, let me show you one more thing. I think we're running out of time, but let me show you. Oh, here's the designer, Milton Glaser, logo design 1976, in the back of a taxi, drawn with red crayon on scrap paper. There you go. There you go. Okay, so this one, right, here's the one-way sign. And that's, to me, there's a lot of ways you can interpret that one-way sign, but one of the ways that I would think of it is there's no erasing. There's no going back. Whatever you do, time is such that you have one way to go, and that's forward, and there's no going back. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something to reckon with, something to accept, to realize. And so the drawing is practicing that in a sense. And the concept is basically a concept that if we could all embrace that concept, we're going to treat our planet better, because we recognize that we can't just keep on polluting it. There's no going back from the pollution. Like, we need to stop polluting it right now. We really do. Like, there's a reason why the mix is called eco-urgency, because it's not like a soft thing that's going on, a slow thing. This is something that is actually urgent right now in our time. It's happening on our watch, and it's actually urgent.
Very, very powerful. Your words and your work.
Thank you so much.
Before we leave, are there any last minute questions anybody wants to squeeze in? Stephen, I think you've been keeping up with them on your end, right?
I don't see any new ones.
Okay.
So I think we'll probably call it at that.
That's great. I answered all the questions. That's amazing.
And timing
I'm sure
wise,
there'll be more in the weeks ahead while your show is up. I would encourage everyone to come see it through December 13th. Essentially runs through the end of exam week, and you have plenty of time to de-stress and go take in the work and think about something bigger than ourselves, bigger than the quiz that you're taking, right?
Yeah.
Nicky, thank you so much. This was really enlightening. And in some ways uplifting too, to think about, the dedication and power to uplift us all and to be more aware of our surroundings.
Thank you. I like the idea that it's uplifting, because it's actually, I'm facing some very dark, difficult things, but I try to do it with a sense of hope, and not a sense of despair. But so on that note, I'm going to add in the chat a video that I just made of a walkthrough of the gallery. And I just put some music on there that's Hard Times Rhythm. Is a reggae song, instrumental version that is kind of sad and mellow, but upbeat too. And so I was talking about it with my mom, like, is it too upbeat for this body of work? And I think that's what you're saying is like, is it uplifting? Is it depressing? Is it, who knows? I don't know. It's up to the viewer to decide.
I would just add in that I highly encourage people to also see the show, because you really don't get a sense of scale from any kind of video or picture. It's really kind of absolutely massive. And I really, really hope that anyone that has the opportunity to come into the gallery does, because it's way more imposing and big and large and all that stuff than even the image gives. So
True. Thank you for that. It's true.
yeah.
That's why I am a muralist, because I do like that imposing scale of images. Yeah.
Great. Well, we look forward to seeing you in person eventually.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you, everyone. And thank you, especially Kristen and Nicodemus. DJ Nicodemus is one of my favorite DJs, actually. Stephen, have you checked him out, Stephen?
I haven't yet. No, I haven't. I literally, that's on my literal checklist of things to do right now.
Yeah, I recommend DJ Nicodemus.
DJ Nicodemus, noted.
Oh, that's going to stick. That's going to stick.
Thank you, everyone, for showing up today for the lecture. Thank you, Nikki, for coming.
Thank you very much.
So much.
Bye-bye.
Take
Have a
care.
great night, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye.